What we could do is we could put a phone on and just go live to Facebook. And then put it on YouTube.
I mean, it's okay if we're a little delayed. What do you think the issue is?
I don't know, Joanne was having problems, I don't know if she touched anything, whatever. It's never happened before.
Do we reset the wireless? Is it connected to the wireless?
There's nothing wireless going on, this is all, everything's going into the board. I just turned it off, give it a chance to reconnect, it takes quite a while. Might be on now? I don't think so, everything's on. Testing 1, 2.
Hey, something happened. I heard that. Okay, you think it works then?
Testing 1, 2, hello.
All right, look at that. It's a miracle. It's a Yom Kippur miracle. So we're going to do the whole thing again. We're restarting our whole service. I'm going to go backwards, back in time. Now that you can hear me, I'm putting off my tallis. We will do that prayer again in a minute. Welcome to our CSS Sanctuary. Wherever you are, we are so glad that you're with us. Good Yantif, Chag Sameach. Welcome to Yom Kippur, our holiest days, and thank God for sound. We're so appreciative wherever you are. If you have a place where you can write in, let us know where you are. We feel your presence, and even though we can't be together in person tonight, we are grateful that you're out there. And as I was trying to say before, you probably saw me gesticulating. I said, this night is even more special because the Bills won. Now you can hear that. We're 3-0 and they won just so Yom Kippur for all the Buffalo Jews would be a special night. Just think, I was thinking what happened is I had a hole in my tire and I was waiting to get a fix for AAA, and all the while I was watching as the game went worse and worse and worse. It went from 28-3, and suddenly we were losing. Then the tire guy showed up, and he was terrific. He fixed my tire for $10, and lo and behold, I come home, I sit by the television, and I watch the final score. That was truly remarkable. So tonight we are going to be doing some things a little bit differently than we normally do because it's Yom Kippur. So on the eve, we actually wear a talit. I encourage you to turn to page 2. We are using the Mishkan HaNefesh Maksor, and it is on page number 2. Those of you that have a talit, I invite you to rise as we say the blessing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kichanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef b'atzitzi. Source of blessings, eternal our guard, majestic in power, your mitzvot are passed to holiness. You give us the mitzvah of wrapping ourselves in the fringe talit on Yom Kippur night. So now I would like to invite over, you can't even read my lips with this. This says Sedek Sedek Tirdof, my wife got it. It means justice, justice shall we pursue. So I am inviting Bruce Corris, our synagogue president, who already gave the announcements, but now you can actually hear him. So we invite Bruce to offer the announcements.
And Lashana Tova again, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us. And thank you to all of you who were texting me to let me know that we were having an issue and to let me know that it was resolved. Please always feel free to do that so that we can get everything taken care of as quickly as possible. And again, we appreciate your patience. As Rabbi mentioned, we may not physically be together this evening, but again, we're connected and we are together. There may be a distance in between us, but spiritually, we are all together this evening. And physically, we will be together tomorrow morning, knock on wood, assuming that the weather continues to hold out. We'll be back at the Transit Drive-In. We are so looking forward to that and worshiping with all of you then. I will be back later in the service for the announcements to give you the full list of everything that's coming up tomorrow. We have a long list of Yom Kippur services and events, and what else is coming up during the week as well. Lashana Tova, everyone. And again, thank you for bearing with us and being patient, as you have been during this whole process just a little extra patience this evening on Kol Nidre.
All right, Bruce, before you leave, if you could light our candles. We have, in addition to the regular candles, we also have a Yisker candle that we light on Yom Kippur. And if you have candles at home, if you didn't join us earlier, please light. Thank you to Andy and Charlene who lit our candles during our Zoom candle lighting. We turn to the Yom Kippur candles on page number 9.
I'm going to bring in some of my ideas.
Oh, first we couldn't get audio, now we can't get our matches lit. There's too much wind in here, that's the problem.
You want to start the blessing while I'm running away?
Oh, we'll wait a second. Bruce told me he didn't like the big candles, but I think that's all we have. It was your prayers that did it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. Source of blessing, eternal regard, fill our universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah, bringing light on Yom Kippur. And on the bottom, Cantor will lead us in the Shekianu for new things.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'hikteyanu lazman hazeh.
Bless you, God, who brings us life, allows us to arrive at this moment, and allows us to be present here together, wherever we are. We're going to continue on page number 14 with a reading. Please join with me, page number 14. Yom Kippur, the Jewish people's festival of the soul, and Kol Nidre, its sacred portal, a night of deep emotions, a night of the psalmist wrote to rejoice with trembling. We rejoice at the sound of Kol Nidre, rhythmic words of release from vows, oaths, and promises to God we fail to keep. We tremble at the melody, music of spiritual amazement. It fills us with awe as we stand before God in Torah. We rejoice that we stand together, strengthened by community in this hour of shared weakness and humility. We tremble, for tonight we confess our flaws, admitting to our imperfections and acknowledging a power far beyond our understanding. We rejoice that we commit ourselves to great endeavors because we feel so deeply and think so nobly. We tremble, for we find our ideals are far greater than our ability. Our promises surpass our might. We rejoice in the freedom that is Kol Nidre's true gift, the freedom to begin a new year without fear of failure, to aspire to be God's image in the world. We tremble because we are mortal. We rejoice in our gratitude for life. We rejoice with trembling. We enter Kol Nidre to face our humanity. We're going to now be turning to page 18. As we read together the Kol Nidre, we do it 3 times. We'll read it in English once, and we have the cello here, as well as Cantor and Paul. So as the ark is opened, I invite you to rise wherever you are, and please read with me in the English. All vows, resolves, and commitments, vows of abstinence and terms of obligations, sworn promises and oaths of dedication that we promise and swear to God and take upon ourselves from this day of atonement until next day of atonement. May it find us well. We regret them, and for all of them we repent. Let all of them be discarded and forgiven, abolished and undone. They are not valid, and they are not binding. Our vows shall not be vows, our resolves shall not be resolves, and our oaths, they shall not be oaths. On page 19, in the middle, give us the strength to keep our promises, the sacred vows of partners in marriage, the promises of love and care between parents and children, the promises of duty between citizen and country, the oaths of doctors, the sacred trust of teacher. Give us the strength to keep our promises to our friends and colleagues, to those who live with us and depend on us, to those who work for us and those whom we work, to those who pray for us, to those whom we pray, to those who we love and those we serve. Give us the courage to keep our promises to ourselves, to one another, and to future generations. On page 20, please join with me. All shall be forgiven, the entire community of Israel and the stranger who lives in their midst, for all have gone astray in error. I invite you to rise as we close the ark and we put the Torah back in its holder. You may be seated. I think I said rise before. Did I say that? Yeah. It's confusing because all I have is pictures in front of me. Cantor, is the sound working on mine?
Yes?
Oh, okay. All right, just checking.
It's just not very loud in the room because then it would sound echoey.
Let's take a nice deep breath, all of us here on Yom Kippur. None of us expected to be in Yom Kippur in this way. And I'm so grateful for Cantor and Paul and Liz. I'm grateful to be in the room to hear that, and I wish that you were too. Cantor and Paul also were part of a video version, so you can see the choir as well, as a way to capture that moment. And throughout this holiday, over the next 24 hours, we've really tried to break it down into little moments. And we'll hope that you'll join us for part of it or all of it, and we're grateful that you are. So this sermon is called All the Vows We Choose to Break. On Yom Kippur, in the year 2000, I had a decision to make. My rabbinical school classmates and I had traveled down to the Negev Desert, which if you've ever been to the Negev Desert in September, it is boiling hot. And the year before, actually, the temperatures had gone so high, it went over 100 degrees, that a few people had fainted and had to be taken to the hospital. It was such a dire situation, actually, that the rabbinic opinion, and this is across the spectrum from Orthodox to Reform, said that it was not only acceptable to drink on Yom Kippur, it was actually being encouraged to make sure that people wouldn't end up in the hospital. Pikuach nefesh, that all-encompassing principle that puts saving a life before almost any Jewish law, was being employed. So I had a decision to make. Would I knowingly violate my Yom Kippur vow and take a sip of water, or not? All day I vacillated. A full bottle of water sat on the desk of my room. Evening passed, morning passed, the temperature was hovering again close to 100. It was dry heat, but it's still hot. And still the bottle sat unused. Towards the mincha service in the early afternoon of the holiday, I decided to take a swig. Better safe than sorry, I said to myself. This would be the first drink of water I had on Yom Kippur since I first started fasting after my bar mitzvah. No one else was in the room. And yet, I still looked from side to side, scanning to see if anyone was even within the vicinity. Was God watching? I put the bottle to my lips and let a few drops enter my mouth and then waited. Nothing happened. The world had not ended. I had not been stricken down, and I, rabbi-to-be, was going to be okay. More importantly, the commitment I made to my people, my family, to Yom Kippur itself was still intact. Tonight marks the 33rd year of that personal vow that I made on my bar mitzvah. For some of you, you have vows that extend many more years longer. And others, this is just the beginning of your journey, having just celebrated your B'nai Mitzvah this year. I looked at my daughter, who's going to have her Bat Mitzvah this year, and thought, next year she will begin her fast, just like I did 33 years ago. All the vows we make on Yom Kippur, our Kol Nidre, may stay the same year after year after year, but we aren't the same, and neither is the world. In the year 1848, when a 30-year-old Lithuanian rabbi named Yisrael ben Zev Wolf Lipkin, I know it's a mouthful, saw the devastation a cholera epidemic was inflicting on his hometown of Vilna. If you know anything about Vilna in the 19th century, it was really the heart of Judaism. It was a wonderful place that unfortunately was taken from us by the Nazis. And there in Vilna, the seat of the Talmud, the seat of all these learned people, this rabbi did the unthinkable. He broke Jewish law. Not only that, but he advised anyone who would listen to do the same, encouraging his students to openly violate the Sabbath to save lives. And when fish was considered forbidden by medical authorities for fear that it helped spread the virus, Rabbi Yisrael went as far to permit them to eat pork. So when Yom Kippur came around that year, it was only fitting that he would take the outlandish step of not only encouraging people to eat and drink, but insisting that they do so. He hung posters on every synagogue in Vilna, instructing people to eat, take walk, and for rabbis to keep services short on the holiest day of the Jewish year. And he took it a step further. He went in front of his own synagogue on Yom Kippur and made Kiddush, openly breaking Jewish law by drinking wine and eating challah. As you can imagine, this made quite a few people very angry. But despite the outcries from other leaders, Rabbi Yisrael would not leave the station until everyone in the synagogue had eaten and drunk their fill. Yisrael ben Zev Wolf Lipkin is also known as Israel Salanter. For those of you involved in Musar, you know this name very well. He was really the founder of modern Musar, a practice that prioritizes good values over strict observance of the law. For him, Pikuach Nefesh, saving life, was at the top of the list. So when doctors advised eating, drinking, walking, he made sure his community followed through. While the circumstances in 19th century Europe are very different than 21st century America, the unease we feel as we begin Yom Kippur is similar. This year we must re-explore what our vows mean and how to best keep them in these most trying of times. For many of you, gathering with family, friends, and community is as central as the fast itself, perhaps more so. But I talk to you from an almost empty sanctuary. The pandemic has changed us, altered our vows, and even altered the way we celebrate our holiest of days. But vows on Yom Kippur are not only meant to be broken, but encouraged to be. As the Kol Nidre that Cantor so beautifully sang, the central prayer of our service, openly announces vows, sworn promises, oaths of dedication that we have taken upon ourselves, that we have sworn to God should be discarded and forgiven, abolished and undone. They are, as the prayer tells us, no longer binding. Why? Because those vital commitments that we made to ourselves and to others were never intended to be burdens that tie us down no matter what. Oh, now it's working. Circumstances change. Life happens. And pardon my French, so does Drek. We need an out, and only by doing so publicly will we give ourselves one. COVID is the great destroyer of vows. We want to do right by those we love, but we cannot possibly do so as we originally intended. completing our work, task, educating our children, supporting family members, being a good community member and member of society is so much more challenging under the constraints of the pandemic. Yom Kippur affords us an opportunity to start again, wiping the slate clean so that we can finally fully immerse ourselves in the year ahead. What we will face in 5781 will no doubt require our full attention, our full selves, unencumbered by guilt for that which we have no control over. As we consider how to face our Maker today and every day, a few key quotes from Rabbi Salanter may come in handy in guiding our decision-making. Number one, someone else's material needs are my spiritual responsibility. I'm going to repeat that again. Someone else's material needs are my spiritual responsibility. Number two, promote yourself, but do not demote others. And number three, something that's more of a story than a quote, but is perhaps Salanter's most enduring statement. When I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. I found it difficult to change the world, so I tried to change my nation. When I found I couldn't change the nation, I began to focus on my town. I couldn't change the town, so as an older man, I tried to change my family. Now as an old man, I realized that the only thing I can change is myself. And suddenly I realized that if long ago I had changed myself, I could have made an impact on my family. My family could have made an impact on our town. The town's impact could have changed the nation, and I could indeed have changed the world. We cannot ultimately change the world by ourselves. All we can do is to change ourselves. I will never know if the drops of water I ingested made a difference. I stayed that year in largely air-conditioned facilities and encountered the heavy seething negative air only in bursts on my way to and from synagogue. But I drank nonetheless, and am glad that I did. In doing so, I was making a statement to myself that my needs were as important as anyone else's. And as Rab Salanter suggests in his famous allegory, by changing myself in that slight way, perhaps I also changed the world. Preserving a life, as the great rabbi advised, and as our tradition emphasizes, is worth any cost, even the most precious of our traditions. Addressing an empty sanctuary is not our preferred method of celebrating the holiday, but if it relieves any one soul of its suffering, it has all been worth it. A safe and easy fast, a Gemar Chatima Tova, a good final sealing in the book of life for us all. Just take a moment to reflect. So we know that there was apparently the audio cut off halfway through, and don't worry, we'll send that out and I'll read it to you again at a different time, and I hope the words will have meaning for you. And I apologize, it's such a different world that we're living in, which I guess is what I was speaking about anyways. I invite you now that you can hear me, hopefully, wherever you are, to rise as community for the Baruch Hu, which is on page 22 in your Machzor, 22. Page 24, please join with me in the English. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your great name fills the universe with majestic might. Your word creates twilight and dusk. As your wisdom opens the gates of night, your discernment separates the changing seasons and causes the passage of time. The stars arrayed across the sky reveal your design. You roll out the cycle of darkness and light, shaping day and night. You sweep away day and carry the world into nightfall, setting day apart from nighttime. You are God of all we can perceive and all that is beyond our perception. Living eternal God, be our sovereign to the end of time. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. Page 28, we remain standing for the Shema in the High Holy Day motif. You may be seated. We turn to page 30 for the V'ahavta.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol yotecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele Asher Anochi Etzavecha Hayom Al Levavcha Veshinantam Levanecha V'dibarta Bam B'shivtecha B'vetecha V'velechtecha V'derech V'v'shochtecha Uvekomecha, Ukshartam leot, Ayatecha, Vehayu letotafot, Ve'enecha, Uchtavtam, Amezuzot betecha, Uvish'avrecha, Leman tiskeru, Va'asitem et kol mitzvotai item kiddushim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem.
We continue with the Mechamocha on page 40. on page 41. For every exile who walked out of Egypt between walls of water, for everyone who remembered the feel of sea bottom underfoot, the sibilant roar of water rearing on the right, on the left, someone forgot, someone scanning the dry horizon for a well, or already mourning the musky smell of autumn of her father's fig trees, forgot the hosannas, and by the bitter waves of Mara forgot the flash of dancing feet, the shimmers of timbrel. For every proselyte at Sinai, someone never heard of horns at all. Someone turned back from the mountain to bank the fire, feed the baby, steal a secret moment with another. Revelation begins in attention, while the elders trembled before the word of God flowing down the scorching north flank of Sinai. Someone rising from a last long embrace gazed into the rapt face of the beloved and saw that it was good. Invite you wherever you are to rise. This is an opportunity for your own private prayers. They begin on page 46, and we will continue services again on page 82. Take a couple of minutes for your own private reflections on this holiest of days. We're going to be turning now to the Vidui section, which is the Confessional Prayer, the essence of Yom Kippur. This is our moment to go before God in community and to confess in the ways that we want to improve in our lives. This is a collective prayer that we will be doing together. We do it in the plural, but it's also important for each of you to embrace this in your own way as we try to make ourselves better in the way that we can. The prayer begins on page 82 with Tavo Lefanecha, our powerful introduction.
Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Tavo lefanecha, tefillatenu, as if צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו,
Our God and God of generations, may our praise reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. I invite you, wherever you are, to rise. And what we do is we take our right fist or our strong fist and we lightly tap our heart. In that way, we're telling ourselves that we can do better. It's an acrostic that Cantor will chant, and I hope that you'll be chanting with us here. And each time, insert your own things that you're trying to do better with in the middle of 82. Hashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi, Havinu, Vehirshanu, Sadnu, Chamasnu, Tafalnu Shaker, Yatsnura, Kizavnu, Latsnu, Maratnu, Niatsnu, Sararnu, Pashanu, Pashanu,
Sararnu,
Sararnu,
Kishinu Horef,
Kishinu Oref,
ay 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 Rashanu,
Rashanu,
Shichatnu,
Shichatnu,
Tiavnu,
Tiavnu,
Tainu,
Tainu,
Titanu,
Titanu.
ay 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 ay
We turn to page 86 as we again think about our sins. Chet technically comes from archery. It means to miss the mark. It's our attempt to do better. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read the first Al Chet on the top of 86 in Hebrew. There is transliteration next to it. And then read the rest in the English. And please join with me. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bezadon ubishkaga, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'dubor peh. The ways we have wronged you deliberately by mistake and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouth. The ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, the harm we have caused in your world through careless speech. The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor. The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
Ve'al ulam elo aslichot selach lanu mechalanu kapelanu ve'al ulam elo slichot selach lanu mechalanu selach lanu mechalanu kapelanu.
I invite you to sit at this point. There's a lot of standing and sitting, so feel free to do so as you're comfortable. If you're unable to stand, that's okay too. You could always strengthen your knees, your birkaim, as we approach different prayers. Standing is a way of seriousness, of intention. I like to sway as the shackle. As I learned as a young kid, is the way to Jewish prayer, but everyone can find your own way into prayer. We're going to move to the prayer, which is really the essence of what we're doing, asking God to hear us, all of our petitions. It seems like tonight's service and so much of our services when we're relying on technology reflects our deep call to be heard and not always knowing whether we are going to be heard. And of course, we can't ask God directly. So as we make our petitions, we want to know that God is there with us. invite you to read with me in the English on page 99, wherever you are. I will hope that I can hear your voice somewhere in the distance. Will you hear my voice, you who are far from me? Will you hear my voice wherever you are? A voice calling aloud, a voice silently weeping, endlessly demanding a blessing. This busy world is vast, its ways are many. Paths meet for a moment, then part forever. We go on searching, but our feet stumble. We cannot find that which we have lost. Perhaps my last day is already drawing near. Drawing close are the tears of parting. I will wait for you till my days flicker out, like Rachel waiting for her beloved. The Shema Kolenu on 98. As we make our appeals to God, we try to remind God, remind ourselves as well that we're part of this wonderful team, a team that extends back from generation to generation. And I think that Ki Anu Amecha, which is on page 106, really captures that moment, that part of the appeal. Please join with Cantor and Paul as they sing the sacred prayer, 106.
Yatra
So forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. I invite you to rise for the Avinu Malkeinu, page 114 and 115.
Avinu Malkeinu, Hanenu Vanenu, Avinu Malkeinu, Hanenu Vanenu, Ki ein banu masim, Asei manu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Asei manu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu v'hanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu v'hanenu, ki ein banu masim.
Please join me in the English. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our families. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names into the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, renew us for a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings. Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption. Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing. Avinu Malkeinu, we welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it. Avinu Malkeinu, act towards us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice. Treat us with tender compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. We remain standing for Aleinu, page 116.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחת האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
On the next page,
ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
you may be seated. We're going to turn to the Mourner's Cottage. You might have seen me looking at my phone. We unfortunately got word of 2 passings just in the moment from the beginning of the service to the end. And just a reminder of how our fate is unsure and unclear, and of our own mortality. Here we especially feel that on Yom Kippur. So Mourner's Cottage is on page 122. And just to let you know, we are having a full healing service tomorrow that Linda Bergman and Adrian Crandall will be leading in the afternoon, I think around 2 o'clock, and I hope that you'll join. Actually, I think it's early, a little bit later, 4 o'clock. So let me tell you who we got here that just passed, literally. So first of all, we have Darcy Kramer's uncle passed, David Sievers, and our thoughts and prayers are with Darcy and with Jim. And I also just got word that Ed Shunk lost his father just now. So we're thinking about Ed and Judy right now. May his memory be for a blessing. We're also remembering Donald Alcock, Grace Bluestone, Jay Rosenthal, and Harvey Rosenblum, all who died this past week. And on Shloshim from the last month, David Cornell, Gladys Grunwald, Pam Harrisberg, Clarice Sis Snitzer, and our yard site list from years past, Bet Arowitz, Albert Ashkin, Gloria Atlas, Estelle Borowitz, Dora Brody, Sarah C. Carr, Lorraine Cherbo, Cynthia Cohen, Charles Colbert, David Citron, Zita Fraden, Edward Froelich, Nathan Gordon, Abe Gottlieb, Rita Green, Joseph Hirsch, Jane Selah Heskins, Leo Kahn, Kenneth Karch, Judith Kaufman Sugarman, Esther Kirchner, Harriet Shustek-Korn, Faye Lattis, Saul Levinson, Max Lieberman, Jean Lyons, Gordon Middleman, Adele Mueller, Leo Mueller, Harold J. Molman, Milton Phillips, Bernard Polikoff, Pauline Rosikoff, Simon Rubin, Marjorie Schlisserman, Edith Schwartz, Louis Shapiro, Max Slonim, Susan Solander Bayless, Benjamin Starsky, Marshall Strauss, Jerry Simons, Minna Winiger, and Bella Zebrak. We also recall all the victims of the Holocaust and natural disasters and terror, and COVID-19 is included on the list. I'll invite the few people I have here to, if you have other names. And wherever you are, please say your name, and if you're in a format that you'd like to announce it in any way, please do so. All whose custom it is to rise, please rise for the mourner's Cottage. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, b'yalma divrach chirate v'yamlik malchute, b'chayachon v'yamachon v'chayed echol beit Yisrael, v'agalav izman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah v'rach li'olam ol me'al maya, yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudasha b'richu, le'ela u'le'ela, mikol b'chata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiran b'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlomo rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom v'yimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved, and we say, amen. Zikranam levracha, may their memories be for a blessing. I'd like to invite up Bruce Chorus again. Hopefully the mic will work this time. So let's test it out first.
I'm using the one that worked for the cellist earlier.
Okay, so let's see.
Thank you, Cantor.
Well, you gotta talk into it.
Okay, there we go.
I don't know, let's see.
Fingers crossed on this one.
There's a lot of gremlins in the system
There are
today.
tonight. Lashana Tova, everyone?
It's not working.
No? Rabbi, do you mind if I'm using
Try it again.
Okay, how's
There
this?
you go.
Oh, now we're good. All right. It's one of those nights. We would like to thank, of course, Rabbi Alex Cantor, Frank Paul Staley, and Liz Staley for a beautiful service tonight, a very meaningful Kol Nidre service. I invited Liz to join us tomorrow morning if she wants, because while we can't have a fiddler on the roof, we could have a cellist on the roof, so we'll see if she shows. We do hope that you enjoyed, and by the way, thank you to everyone, all of you for being so patient this evening as we've been dealing with our gremlins, as the cantor mentioned. And thank you to all of you who violated the no texting ban on Yom Kippur to let me know that we were having an issue so that we could get it fixed. Thank you, everyone, for that. We appreciate your patience. We hope you enjoyed the virtual sanctuary productions of Hashivenu and Kol Nidre. Thank you. Oh, she's behind her lectern. Thank you to the cantor, because that was a labor of love, a lot of work that went into it, and they were beautiful, and they were spectacular, so thank you for that. Okay, tomorrow morning, show of hands, who's going to be at the drive-in? Julia, your hands? Okay, never mind. So tomorrow morning at 9, we're going to start with our Welcome to Yom Kippur via Zoom. 9:30, the Torah service will be released by email, website, Facebook, and YouTube. Then, as I mentioned, Transit Drive-In at 11 a.m. for the Yom Kippur morning service. Knock on wood, fingers crossed, weather looks good. We should be able to do it. Please, if you haven't RSVP'd, do so to Joanne, and be sure you bring your tickets with you. After that service, we have a very, very busy afternoon. We will have reflections at 1 o'clock. The theme is, how does Judaism connect with your life/profession during the pandemic? And it will feature Glenn Goldman, Dr. Gail Burstein, Shauna Markman, and Victor Przesnik. And then at 2:30, we're back at the drive-in for the family service with Rabbi Alex, Cantor Frank, and Dr. Andy Simons. It's open to the community. Again, please RSVP to Joanne. We do really need an accurate head count, a car count more than anything, to see if, especially in the morning, to see if we're going to expand into another screen parking lot. Then after the family service, we have the healing service at 4 o'clock via Zoom, followed by Mincha Torah service at 5, also via Zoom. Then we move over to live stream for Yitzker and Neela. That is at 6. Then please join us here in the Shir Shalom parking lot about 7:15 for Park and Pray shofar blessings, the final shofar blowing, and a Havdalah service. Then following that, if you have made reservations for our drive-through break-fast bagel box delivery, that will be happening after the stuff in the parking lot, right around 7:30. Please follow the directions to enter the drive-through line near the kitchen door. The break-fast bagel boxes are sponsored by the Rabbi's Discretionary Fund. Thank you. And they're catered by Johnny C's. As Rabbi mentioned earlier today, we were at Whitechapel for the graveside ceremony that is always held in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Special thank you to Todd Sugarman and TLS Landscaping for doing what they do every year, which is a wonderful mitzvah, and that's cleaning up the Temple Beth Am, the Shir Shalom, and the Temple Sinai areas over at Whitechapel. They look great. Thank you to Todd. That's a wonderful mitzvah, and we truly appreciate it. We also want to thank the women of Shir Shalom and our board of trustees, clergy, and staff for helping with our Rosh Hashanah gift bags. We hope that they bring sweetness to your new year. We also want to thank Sue Hill for steaming and hanging our beautiful arc curtains just in time for the High Holy Days. And one last thank you, special thank you to our communications committee for their incredible support. We had so much information going out with the High Holidays on all of these platforms, and the communications committee really kept on top of it and made sure that you're informed of everything that we're doing, and we appreciate their commitment and their expertise. Again, tomorrow morning, I hope to see you at the parking lot at the Transit Drive-In. We will have parking lot attendants, so please be patient when you pull in, but especially when you leave. We don't want any fender benders on the High Holidays. Lashana Tova, everyone. And as always, thank you for your patience, thank you for your understanding, and thank you for being part of this amazing congregation Shir Shalom family. As I said earlier, you may not be in the room with us physically, but you're in the room with us. We are always connected, and we are always together, and we always will be. Lashana Tova.
Thanks, Bruce, and thanks for all you do. It's really appreciated. We are going to be moving to our final prayers. And actually, those of you that I know, because we're in this very strange virtual setting, those of you that didn't, for whatever reason, if the sound cut off, I think, during my sermon, what I'll do is I'll read the sermon again. Cantor, Bruce, you guys can, don't worry, you don't have to listen again, but just for the audio, if people want to tune in or stay, if you have the patience for it, please, and we will also put that online as well. I'd like to, as we go to the close of the service, read a poem by Grace Bluestone. I miss her so dearly. It's called Hope. Calm blue seas, tender green spring lawns, rosy sunsets, soft silent snow, and the gentle purple just before dark. The peaceful places Our prayers give strength to these small spaces, hoping they will grow into peaceful waters and peaceful lands, winters of quiet content, and springs rich with singing birds. We're going to be turning to page 127 for Hashivenu.
Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Inna Shuva, Inna Shuva.
May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year, and bless this year we're going to close with.
Baruch atah Adonai Mivarech Hashanim. Baruch atah Adonai. This is our year to dream. We gather here as another year begins. We pray you give us what we need. But this broken world needs our help to heal. Be a shining light and see your dream is realized. Baruch atah Adonai Mivarech Hashanim. Baruch atah Adonai. This is our year to dream.
We're so grateful that you joined with us. So Cantor and Paul, we have a really, really long day tomorrow, especially Cantor. We're going to be here all day. I'm going to stay. I'm going to do the sermon again, and I'll see you tomorrow at the drive-in. So just keep the sound on. So just for the sake, because I know how frustrating it is if you hear part of something and not the whole piece of it. Bruce, I'll see you tomorrow too. For those of you that if you're tuning in right now, or you can pause it and you can watch this later, at least it will, you'll have a chance to view it and to be able to hear it. And I'm so sorry earlier that we were having some audio problems, but such is life under COVID. So the sermon for tonight is called All the Vows We Choose to Break. On Yom Kippur in the year 2000, I had a decision to make. My rabbinical school classmates and I had traveled down to the Negev desert to celebrate the Day of Atonement, and with the Arava Institute at Kibbutz Ketorah, less than an hour from the beach resort of Eilat. As you can imagine, it was pretty hot down there. The year before, the temperatures actually had gone way over 100. It was dry heat, but nonetheless hot. And a few people had fainted, had gone to the hospital, and they were pretty worried about it. So rabbinic opinion, ranging from Orthodox to Reform, all held that drinking water in such circumstances, even on Yom Kippur, was not only acceptable, but was being encouraged. Pikuach nefesh, that all-encompassing principle that put saving a life before almost any Jewish law, was being employed. So I had a decision to make. Would I knowingly violate my Yom Kippur vow and take a sip of water, or not? All day I vacillated. A full bottle of water sat on my desk in my room. Evening passed, morning passed. The temperature was hovering close to 100 again, and still the bottle sat unused. Towards the Mincha service in the early afternoon of the holiday, I decided to take a swig. Better safe than sorry, I said to myself. This would be the first drink of water I had had on Yom Kippur since I first started fasting after my bar mitzvah. No one else was in the room with me, and yet I still looked side to side, scanning to see if anyone was in the vicinity. Was God watching? I put the bottle to my lips and let a few drops enter my mouth, and then waited. Nothing happened. The world had not ended. I had not been stricken down, and I, Rabbi-to-be, was going to be okay. More importantly, the commitment I had made to my people, to Yom Kippur, was still intact. Tonight marks the 33rd day of that personal vow. Some of you have vows that extend many more years longer. And well, for some of you, this is only the beginning of your journey, having celebrated your B'nai Mitzvah this past year. I saw my daughter before services and thought next year she's beginning her journey. All the vows we make on Yom Kippur, our Kol Nidre, may stay the same year after year after year, but we are not the same, and neither is the world. In the year 1848, when a 30-year-old Lithuanian rabbi named Yisrael ben Zev Wolf Lipkin saw the devastation a cholera epidemic was inflicting on his hometown of Vilna, which was the heart of 19th century Judaism, he did the unthinkable. He broke Jewish law. Not only that, but he had advised anyone who would listen to do the same, encouraging his students to openly violate the Sabbath to save lives. And when fish was considered forbidden by medical authorities for fear that it helped spread the disease, Rabbi Yisrael went as far as to permit them to eat pork. So when Yom Kippur came around that year, it was only fitting that he would take the outlandish step of not only encouraging people to eat and drink, but insisting that they do so. He hung posters on every synagogue in Vilna, instructing people to eat, take walks, and for rabbis to keep services short on the holiest day of the Jewish year. And he took it even a step further. He went in front of his own synagogue on Yom Kippur, and he made Kiddush, openly breaking Jewish law by drinking wine and eating challah. As you can imagine, this made quite a few people very angry. But despite the outcries of other leaders, Rabbi Yisrael would not leave his station until everyone in the synagogue had eaten and drunk their fill. Yisrael ben Zev Wolf Lipkin is someone some of you might be familiar with, especially those who have studied Musar, because he is better known as Israel Salanter, or the founder of modern Musar, a practice that prioritizes good values over a strict observance of the law. For him, Pikuach Nefesh, saving a life, was the top of the list. So when doctors advised eating, drinking, and walking, he made sure his community followed through. While the circumstances in 19th century Europe are very different from 21st century America, the unease we feel as we begin Yom Kippur is similar. This year, we must re-explore what our vows mean and how to best keep them in these most trying of times. For many of you, gathering with family, friends, and community is as central as the fast itself, perhaps more so. But I talk to you from an empty sanctuary, literally empty now. The pandemic has changed us, altered our vows, and even altered the way we celebrate our holiest of days. But vows on Yom Kippur are not only meant to be broken, they're encouraged to be. Kol Nidre, the central prayer of our evening service, openly announces that all vows, sworn promises, oaths of dedication that we have taken upon ourselves and that we have sworn to God should be discarded and forgiven, abolished and undone. They are, as the prayer tells us, no longer binding. Why? Because those vital commitments that we made to ourselves and to others were never intended to be burdens that tie us down, no matter what. Circumstances change. Life happens. And pardon my French, so does Drek. We need an out, and only by doing so publicly will we give ourselves one. COVID is the great destroyer of vows. We want to do right by those we love, but we cannot possibly do so as we originally intended. Completing our work task, educating our children, supporting family members, being a good community member and member of society is so much more challenging under the constraints of the pandemic. Yom Kippur affords us an opportunity to start again, wiping the slate clean so that we can fully immerse ourselves in the year ahead. What we will face in 5781 will no doubt require our full attention and our full selves, unencumbered by guilt for that which we have no control over. As we consider how to face our Maker today and every day, a few key quotes from Rabbi Salanter may come in handy in guiding our decision-making. Number one, someone else's material needs are my spiritual responsibility. Number two, promote yourself, but do not demote another. And number three, something that's more of a story than a quote, but is perhaps Salanter's most famous statement. When I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. I found it difficult to change the world, so I tried to change my nation. When I found I couldn't change my nation, I began to focus on my town. I couldn't change my town, so as an older man, I tried to change my family. Now as an old man, I realized that the only thing I can change is myself. And suddenly I realized that if long ago I had changed myself, I could have made an impact on my family. My family could have made an impact on our town. The town's impact could have changed the nation, and I could indeed have changed the world. We cannot ultimately change the world by ourselves. All we can do is to try to change ourselves. I will never know if the drops of water I ingested made a difference. I stayed that year in largely air-conditioned facilities and encountered the heavy, seething negative air only in bursts on my way to and from the synagogue. But I drank nonetheless, and I'm glad that I did. In doing so, I was making a statement to myself that my needs were as important as anyone else's. And as Rav Salanter suggests in his famous allegory, by changing myself in that slight way, perhaps I also changed the world. Preserving life, as the great rabbi advised, and as our tradition emphasizes again and again, is worth any cost, even the most precious of our traditions. Addressing an empty sanctuary is not our preferred method of celebrating the holiday, but if it relieves anyone's soul of its suffering, it has all been worth it. A safe and easy fast, a Gemar Chatima Tova, a good final sealing in the book of life. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow at Transit Drive.